Welcome back. We're going to take just a moment away to break away from the coverage of the trial of Donald Trump to bring you some other news making headlines. Today, President Biden spoke to Ukraine's President Zelensky, assuring him that the U.S. will quickly provide, quote, significant new security assistance to Ukraine as soon as it passes the Senate. That's expected to be on Tuesday. On Saturday, the House approved $95 billion in foreign aid, which includes money for Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific region, including Taiwan. But is it too late to help Ukraine defeat Russia? Joining us now, Admiral James Stavridis, former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. Admiral, I was talking to people over the weekend, Republicans and Democrats, elected and appointed, who said that in all their careers, we're talking about decades of service, that this 6-month period, allowing Ukraine to have to start retreating, to lose first Avdiivka in February, then to retreat, to not have any weapons, to be at a 10-to-1 disadvantage in artillery against Russia in some instances, not running out of ammo, not having air defense, glide bombs that are now threatening Odessa and threatening other aerial campaign, threatening Kharkiv, that they could still lose if all of this, even though it's pre-positioned in Europe, we're told, doesn't get to them quickly. And what Zelensky told Kristen Welker on Meet the Press is they didn't have the F-16s yet, and that was approved a year ago.
It's shocking, it's tragic, it's heartbreaking, but let's look to the future. Let's say to ourselves, okay, we dithered around for months, but now we can still retrieve this situation. And that's the military officer in me. We can still do this. And so you are correct, Andrea. The spigot can be turned on almost instantaneously when the president signs this, because people like General Chris Cavoli, my successor as the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, have been working tirelessly to pre-position all this, anticipating this result. So this will be a matter of days, maybe even hours in some cases, where the new set of munitions will hit the front lines for the Ukrainians. And it can't happen fast enough. And here are the priorities. Number one, air defense, as you alluded to. Number two, ammunition for those artillery systems. Number three, F-16s. Number four, the long-range missiles to go behind Russian lines, the ATACMS, as they're called. And finally, drones, cyber, connectivity in space. All this has been waiting in the wings. It's now going to move forward quickly. We can still retrieve this situation.
Admiral, you've been writing about this Russian surge, the spring-summer offensive, May, June, July. Do you think that this equipment, particularly air defenses and the ammunition, will get to Ukraine in time to be able to push back?
I do. And most of the military analysts with whom I'm speaking, both in Europe and here in the United States, who have studied this, believe we can close the switch. Look, what has the West excelled at since this process started? And the answer is, ultimately, once these munitions are approved, we get them in the hands of the Ukrainians on the front lines very quickly. Old saying in the military, while the amateurs are focused on the strategy, the real professionals are looking at logistics. I'm confident we can get this into the hands of the Ukrainians. Not a minute to lose. But if we get going this week, President will sign this bill immediately upon Senate passage. And by the way, just to conclude, Andrea, when the Senate votes for this, I think they'll get 70 votes in favor of it. In the House, well over 300. 75% of both houses of the United States Congress have approved this by a 75% margin. This is clearly the will of the American people to get these weapons in the hands of our partners.
And we should talk about what happened in the House, because Russia has been rearmed during these 6 months and even before by North Korea providing missiles, by Iran providing drones. So they're getting help from all of our adversaries. And at the same time, you had a new speaker who had never been briefed before. He was a backbencher, really, fifth maybe in line in leadership. And maybe too overly impressed by Donald Trump, because there was a real flip there by Donald Trump and arguably Lindsey Graham in February. But now he has seemed to gotten religion, if you will. He's a very deeply religious man, but on foreign policy. And people say it's that intelligence briefing. He is the speaker. He's right in line for the presidency. And he was briefed by Bill Burns and by the other top officials. And he clearly took that seriously. And perhaps he's looking at the possibility he won't even be speaker, next year if the Democrats retake the House. So this is going to be his legacy. It's going to be losing or holding off Vladimir Putin.
Absolutely. And let me add one other, I think, little known fact that I just picked up on a Wire report earlier today, a quote from the speaker saying that his son is headed to Annapolis, to the United States Naval Academy this fall. And the speaker said, absolutely correctly, the Ukrainians are not asking us to send our sons and daughters to this fight. They are asking for the weapons systems, the tools to get the job done. So I think it's a combination of that intelligence, the knowledge that he's about to be a Navy dad, and he wants to send the weapons, not the troops, to solve this problem.
Admiral, thank you so much. I noted that also, and that is exactly the ethos of the Academy.